Hi guys, how you doing? This is Ben, the Real Estate Pro. Hey, want to do a quick video on buyer's agency. Okay, and the question is, should you hire a buyer's agent? Now, I'm licensed in the state of California and Arizona, and that's a question that's a lot of people, a lot of buyers are going to be asking because of the new rules that are probably coming in the next 6 months to a year as a result of the Sister Burnett verdict and also the no select trial that's going on up in the Northeast. And basically, if you haven't, if you're not familiar with what's going on, is what's going to happen is that sellers aren't going to be required, and they never really were, but sellers, aren't going to be required to pay a buyer's agent commission. Okay, right now the current format and how it's been since about 1997. Well, really, it's been this way for 100 years, but is that the seller negotiates a commission with an agent. The agent, let's just say it's 5%, it's completely negotiable, but most agents will take that 5%. And if another agent brings them a buyer, they will split it. So 2.5 for them, 2.5 for this listing agent. That format's probably going away. What is that going to do? Well, what that's going to do is that's going to put the compensation of a buyer's agent on the buyer. Okay. Now the seller may offer compensation, but they don't have to anymore. And I can see how a lot of sellers they're not going to want to do that because in the markets that I serve, we're talking 10, 15, maybe 20 grand, maybe even 30 grand, depending on the price of the house. So a seller may not be able to do that or may not want to. Say, why should I be paying for someone that's representing the seller that's working against me? It makes sense. Okay. I mean, I understand where they're coming from is my point. Okay. So where does that leave buyers? Well, there's a few things that you can do. Number one, you can go unrepresented, meaning you don't have to hire an agent. You could just, if you find a property, you can call the listing agent and say, hey, look, I don't have an agent. I'm going to do this myself. Can I come take a look at it? And they'll be more than happy to show you the property. Okay. Now, if you want to put in an offer, that you're going to have to find your own paperwork. You're going to have to do your own due diligence on the property. And for some people, that's something that they are able to do. So you'll be able to do that and not have to pay a buyer's agent. You can also, in most states, go to the listing agent and they can represent you as well. It's called dual agency. It might be called something else in different states, but most states, I want to say like 42 or 44 states, I can't remember how many, have dual agency. And even some of those have, I forgot what they call it, but it's similar to dual agency in that the same brokerage will represent you, but you're going to have your own agent. Okay. And then there are a handful of states that don't allow dual agency at all. Okay. Now, if you're in a state like that, this may not be an option for you. Okay. So you can go to the listing agent and say, hey, I want to look at this property and I want to put in an offer, and they'll do it for you. Okay. Now, dual agency is a little bit problematic in that, you have one person that's representing both parties. How do you know who they're really representing or who they're really being fair to? That's something that you're going to have to weigh out and see, and hopefully, and I think in most cases, at least for most agents that I know, they want the transaction to close because they don't get paid unless the transaction closes. So they're going to help you out. Okay. But it's going to behoove you to really be on your toes and make sure that you're being taken care of. Okay. And if you're not, then you may, if you can't pay your own buyer's agent, then you may be stuck with having that, or you can hire an agent. Okay. Now, if you want to hire a buyer's agent, they typically, especially now, they're going to have you sign something probably called a buyer's representation and broker compensation agreement. Okay. Now, before, under the old format, the cooperative compensation format, rarely did a buyer's agent have you sign one of those. And basically what that is that's an agreement between you and your agent saying that you're going to compensate them a certain amount. Okay. 2%, 3%, a flat fee, whatever. Okay. That's typically in the past what that form is for. Now, you may find, if you're looking around for a buyer's agent, you may find that the first thing they're going to ask you to do is sign this form. Okay. And what's it for? Well, what it does is it secures you or locks you into you having to pay a commission if the seller is not willing to pay one. Okay. So the question is, should you sign a buyer representation and broker compensation agreement? Now, they might be in a different name in your state, but basically that's what the form does. Basically, it's an agreement between you and your buyer's agent or your buyer's brokerage, I should say, for you to compensate them a certain amount. Should you sign one? Well, that's on you. Okay. I can see reasons why you wouldn't, because then you're locked into paying them. So most of them will say, hey, if you find a house in this period of time in this particular town or location, you have to pay me a commission, regardless of if the seller is actually paying commission. Now, if the seller's paying commission, most agreements will simply say, hey, if I get this compensation from the seller, you don't have to pay me a dime. Okay. So the question is, should you sign one? As a buyer, I could see why I wouldn't want to do that. I mean, it's like, do I really? I mean, what if I don't like any of the properties? What if I don't like you as the agent? Okay. Also, some of these agreements say that you might owe them a commission, and you may not even buy the house, depending on how the circumstances of why the house didn't sell. So, should you sign one? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you need to get with legal counsel, get with whatever consulting that you can go out there and do, or get, and decide whether you want to go ahead and go that route. Okay. Now, if you don't want to sign one, okay, there are agents out there that will go ahead and work for you without you signing one of these agreements. Okay. I'm one of them. Look, I can secure, if I find a house for you, I can secure my compensation in other ways. Okay. Now, the other thing that you can do is if you're stuck with having to pay your buyer's agent, okay, meaning maybe you're in a situation where, and this is a lot of home buyers, is they're barely scraping up enough money to cover their closing costs. And to pay an agent, in a lot of cases, that's actually doubling your closing costs or close to it. So if you can imagine, if you're having to come up with $20,000 for closing costs to buy a house, could you imagine going, well, I got to come up with another 15, 20 grand to pay my agent if I want representation? Yeah, that's a question you're going to have to ask yourself. Okay. And for some of you, it's just not going to be in the cards. So you're going to limit yourself, okay, as to what you're going to be able to do. So what do you do in that situation? Well, there's enough agents out there, guys, that you can negotiate. You can negotiate a flat fee. One idea that I've conveyed to some friends of mine that were kind of in that situation and said, hey, look, go find the house. Go call a listing agent and say, hey, look, I'm not represented. I don't have an agent. I don't know whether I'm going to hire one or not, but I would like to look at this property. Okay. Now, the seller's agent may be more than willing to help you, because under the current format right now, if you're a buyer and you want to buy a house, they can make more money on a commission. Of course, after all these changes, that's not going to be the case. But look, an agent, regardless of how the compensation is right now or how it's going to be in the future, they can't make any money until a buyer purchases the property. So they need a buyer. So me, if I'm a listing agent and someone calls me and says, hey, look, I'm not represented by anybody, but I want to look at this house, no problem. No problem. Come on down. I'll meet you at this time. Come take a look at the house and I'll show you the property. Not a problem. Okay. So in most cases, you're going to see that. Now, in some cases, are you going to see situations where, let's just face it, there are lazy people out there and there are lazy real estate agents? Are you going to find that situation? Yeah, it's possible. Okay. You're going to find that situation. Now, how to find the property? Well, that's easy. I mean, most of the information on MLS that we get as agents are pushed out to like Realtor.com, Trulia, Zillow. So you can find the property, and the information of the listing agent is going to be there. Okay. So, you want to get your own agent. Like I said, you can hire one and you can negotiate a fee. You just might have to go through a lot of agents. Okay. Now, if you're in the state of California, if you're in the state of Arizona, give me a call. I'd be more than happy to help you. Negotiating is not something that's foreign to me. Let's figure out what it is that you need, and I'll see if I can save you the funds and make it work for you. Okay. So what's really important, guys, and this is something that I always tell my clients, is educate yourself and don't be afraid to ask questions. Okay. Because I think there are too many people that go out there that want to buy a house. They just kind of follow along, which I get because it's the path of least resistance. And look, if you want to just go ahead and pay your buyer's agent and you feel that it's worth it to go ahead and pony up those bucks and just pay them, provided that you can't find a seller to do it, that's fine. Go for it. It's up to you whether it's going to be worth it or not. In some cases it is, in some cases it's not going to be. But if that gives you peace of mind, most cases it's going to be worth it. All right, guys, this has been the Real Estate Pro coming at you. Hopefully that helps you out a little bit. I'm going to put my email address in the in the description here. If you guys want to email me and ask me questions about your particular situation, now I'm not licensed in every state, so I can't advise you necessarily, but I can point you in the right direction, maybe get you some information that you can go ahead and make your own decision. If you are in California and Arizona, well, I am licensed in those states, so I can help you. And then perhaps I can, if you're in a state that I don't do business in, perhaps I can point you, like I said, to an agent that will work with you and help you find that agent. Okay? Anyways, guys, this has been the Real Estate Pro. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. We'll talk to you later.